Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Canada Truth Channel, where Canada, the illusion of freedom and system of control is exposed. Today's video, COVID truth. Correlation research in the public interest published this research in 2024. COVID-19 vaccine associated mortality in the Southern Hemisphere. And as of July 7th, 2024, this paper has now been published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Research and Applied Medicine. This is peer-reviewed. The paper is based on 17 countries in the Southern Hemisphere and equatorial region. A definite causal link is shown between many peaks in all-cause mortality and rapid vaccine rollouts. The authors quantify the fatal toxicity risk per injection, which is exceedingly large in the most elderly. Now, this is an extensive document. As you can see, it's 180 pages. They have also published this research paper, Spatiotemporal Variation of Excess All-Cause Mortality in the World. 125 countries were studied during the COVID period of 2020 to 2023 regarding socioeconomic factors and public health and medical interventions. I will leave the links below. On top of this information, I also have a brief overview from a Freedom of Information Act request to the PHAC, Public Health Agency of Canada, who tried to delay the release of that information, but has since been forced to. So we're going to review some of that as well. They released over 2,000 pages, and they also released, including in that over 2,000 pages, a database with over 22,000 papers and information, largely regarding adverse side effects and fatalities. It's very disturbing what they were up to, and it's even more disturbing with all of this information out there. They are still advocating for COVID-19 vaccines and boosters. It is nothing less than diabolical. Okay, so looking at this paper, because of the length of this paper, I'm only going to review the abstract and the conclusion. But as always, I'll post the links and encourage all of you, please share this information, especially if you have elderly relatives. It's very important, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. 17 equatorial and southern hemisphere countries were studied: Argentina, Australia, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Malaysia, New Zealand, Paraguay, Peru, Philippines, Singapore, South Africa, Suriname, Thailand, and Uruguay, which comprise of 9.1% of the worldwide population and 10.3% of the worldwide COVID-19 injections, with a vaccination rate of 1.91 injections per person of all ages. Virtually every COVID-19 vaccine type and manufacturer, and it spans 4 continents. In these 17 countries, there is no evidence in all-cause mortality, or ACM, by time data of any beneficial effect of COVID-19 vaccines. There is no association in time between COVID-19 vaccinations and any proportionate reduction in ACM. The opposite occurs. All 17 countries have transitioned to regimes of high ACM, which occur when the COVID-19 vaccines are deployed and administered. 9 of the 17 countries have no detectable excess ACM in the period of approximately 1 year after the pandemic was declared on March 11, 2020 by the World Health Organization. Until the vaccines are rolled out, Australia, Malaysia, New Zealand, Paraguay, Philippines, Singapore, Suriname, Thailand, and Uruguay. Unprecedented peaks in ACM occur in the summer, January, February of 2022 in the Southern Hemisphere and in the equatorial latitude countries, which are synchronous or immediately preceded by rapid COVID-19 vaccine booster dose rollouts, third and fourth doses. This phenomenon is presented in every case with sufficient mortality data, 15 countries. 2 of the countries studied have insufficient mortality data in January and February. Detailed mortality and vaccine data for Chile and Peru allow resolution by age by dose number. It is unlikely that the observed peaks in all-cause mortality in January-February 2022 and additionally in July-August 2021, Chile, July-August 2022, Peru, in each of both countries and in each elderly group could be due to any cause other than the temporarily associated rapid COVID-19 vaccine booster dose rollouts. Likewise, it is unlikely that the transition to regimes of high ACM coincident with the rollout and sustained administration of COVID-19 vaccines in all 17 Southern Hemisphere and equatorial latitude countries could be due to any cause other than the vaccines. Synchronicity between the many peaks in ACM in 17 countries on 4 continents in all elderly age group at different times and associated rapid booster rollouts allows this firm conclusion regarding causality and accurate quantification of COVID-19 vaccine toxicity. The all ages vaccine dose fatality rate, or VDFR, which is a ratio of inferred vaccine-induced deaths to vaccine doses delivered in a population, is quantified for the January-February 2022 ACM peak to fall in the range of 0.02% in New Zealand and to 0.2% in Uruguay. In Chile and Peru, the VDFR increases exponentially with age, doubling approximately every 4 years of age, and is largest for the latest booster doses, reaching approximately 5% in the 90 plus years age groups. 1 death per 20 injections of dose 4. Comparable results occur for the Northern Hemisphere, as found in previous articles from India, Israel, and the United States. We quantify the overall all ages VDFR for the 17 countries to be 0.126%, which would imply 17 million COVID-19 vaccine deaths worldwide from 13.5 billion injections up to September 2023. This would correspond to mass iatrogenic event that killed 0.213% of the world population, one death per 470 living persons in less than 3 years, and did not measurably prevent any deaths. The overall risk of death induced by injection with the COVID-19 vaccines in actual populations inferred from excess all-cause mortality and its synchronicity with rollouts is globally pervasive and much larger than reported in clinical trials. Adverse effect monitoring and cause of death statistics from death certificates by 3 orders of magnitude, or 1,000-fold greater. The large age dependence and large values of the VDFR quantified in this study of 17 countries on 4 continents using all the main COVID-19 vaccine types and manufacturers should induce governments to immediately end the baseless public health policy of prioritizing elderly residents for injection with COVID-19 vaccines until a valid risk-benefit analysis are made. That's pretty plain and simple. Let's have a look at their conclusions here. Causality proven. The 17 countries studied, Argentina, Australia, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Malaysia, New Zealand, Paraguay, Peru, Philippines, Singapore, South Africa, Suriname, Thailand, and Uruguay, comprise of 9.1% of the world population and 10.3% of worldwide COVID-19 injections, at a vaccination rate of 1.1 injections per person of all ages. Virtually every COVID-19 vaccine type and manufacturer and span 4 continents. The scientific tests for causality are amply satisfied and extensively demonstrated in these sections of the present paper. COVID-19 vaccines can cause death. Absence of excess mortality until the COVID-19 vaccines are rolled out. The COVID-19 vaccines did not save lives and appear to be lethal toxic agents. Strong evidence for causal association and vaccine lethal toxicity. Causality in excess mortality is amply demonstrated. Assessing other interpretations of the cause of excess mortality. Implications regarding age dependence of fatal toxicity of COVID-19 vaccines. There are no known facts that disprove the inferred and quantitative causal relation between the observed excess ACM peaks and the temporarily associated COVID-19 vaccine and booster rollouts. Actual vaccine mortality much larger than that incorrectly inferred from faulty data. Gee, who provided all that faulty data? There can be little doubt that the peaks in excess All-cause mortality are caused by the COVID-19 vaccinations with a mean all ages fatal toxicity by injection of VDFR of 0.126, or approximately 1 death per 800 injections, which is reasonably expected to be globally representative. This is a staggering number compared to what is generally believed about traditional vaccines, which is approximately 1 serious adverse effect per million. It is 3 orders of magnitude, or 1,000 times larger. In contrast to this large number of ACM data, the effect of all ages VDFR values inferred from other sources, the small number of autopsy confirmations, adverse effect monitoring of deaths, the small number of national vaccine injury compensation payments for deaths, pharmaceutical injury industry clinical trial reports, and death certificates and corresponding government-reported cause of death statistics for COVID-19 vaccines are significantly smaller, again, by orders of magnitude. Therefore, we conclude with a high degree of certainty that adverse effect monitoring, clinical trial reports, and death certificate statistics greatly underestimate the fatal toxicity of the injections. The large gap between incorrectly inferred and actual population level VDFR values probably occurs because of systemic avoidance of admitting the injections as a possible cause of death in frail and vulnerable patients. For example, the causes of death will be attributed to a particular organ or system failure without reference to the vaccine, even if the injection was recent and the patient was previously stable. The measured all ages VDFR of 0.126% implies that 17 million COVID-19 vaccine deaths would have occurred globally up to September 2023. It appears that the global COVID-19 vaccination campaign was, in effect, a mass iatrogenic event that killed 0.2% of the world population, 1 death per 470 living persons in less than 3 years, and did not measurably prevent any deaths. The policy prioritizing elderly residents for COVID-19 vaccination must be ended. The detailed age and dose discriminated data from Chile and Peru allows unprecedented certainty in quantifying the age dependence of the fatal toxicity from COVID-19 vaccines. The risk of death per injection, VDFR, increases exponentially with age for 60 plus years ages, doubling approximately every 4 years in age, and attains values of approximately 5% for 90 plus year olds subjected to dose 4, second booster. VDFR equals 5% corresponds to 1 death per 20 injections of dose 4 for 90 plus year olds. Dose 4 again is the second booster. These VDFR values are consistent with all prior evaluations based on ACM. 1%, one death per 100 injections, nominally all ages in India. 0.55%, one death per 180 injections for 80-plus-year-olds in Israel. 0.93%, or one death per 110 injections for 85-year-olds in Australia. And they prove this within this publication with their data. The population level age dependence of BDFR doubling every 4 years in age and its large magnitude should induce governments to immediately implement an absolute pause on the baseless health policy of prioritizing elderly people for injection of COVID-19 vaccines until a valid risk-benefit analysis are made and publicly reported. The same may be true of seasonal influenza vaccines. And all of their references, of course, are included in this publication. That should be very disturbing information for all of you. And yet our public health agency is still pushing COVID-19 vaccines. Now, knowing that it kills elderly population, why would a government choose to continue that campaign? I'll let you answer that for yourselves. The second paper is the spatio-temporal variation of excess all-cause mortality in the world. 125 countries were studied during the COVID period 2020 to 2023 regarding socioeconomic factors and public health and medical interventions. The report, which consists of 521 pages, including hundreds of figures, contains a detailed examination of excess all-cause mortality during the COVID period in 125 countries, comprising 35% of the world's population. The authors write, the spatial temporal variations in national excesses all-cause mortality rates allow us to conclude that the COVID period from 2020 to 2023 excess all-cause mortality in the world is incompatible with a pandemic viral respiratory disease as the primary cause of death. This hypothesis, although believed to be supported by testing campaigns, should be abandoned. We describe plausible mechanisms and argue that the three primary causes of death associated with the excess all-cause mortality during and after COVID periods are biological, including psychological stress from mandates such as lockdowns and associated socioeconomic structural changes, non-COVID-19 vaccine medical interventions such as mechanical ventilators and drugs, including denial of treatment with antibiotics, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, COVID-19 vaccine injection rollouts, including repeated rollouts on the same population. And again, I will leave you the links to this report as well. And this report came out July 19th, 2024. Now, freedom of information. PHAC has complied with the Information Commissioner's order to release dozens of documents revealing comprehensive awareness of death and misery caused by COVID vaccines. And thank you, Scoops Magoo, on the Scoops Gazette for publishing this. This is a brief overview. I don't know how to get rid of, okay. The tragic died suddenly phenomenon is real, and Canada's public health agency has been tracking it. The shock of an unexpected death is particularly painful and confusing for the victim's family and friends. An access to information request filed in May 2024 has now yielded thousands of pages of internal reporting, literature, reviews, emails, as well as 19 spreadsheets with adverse event data. And here's what the commissioner actually said. Considering how long the response to the access requested has been outstanding, I find that PHAC must issue the response without undue delay. And he also says the complaint is well-founded. And his order, I order the Minister of Health to provide a complete response to the access request no later than 60 business days after the date of the final report. And the final report is available here, which I will leave the link in the description. Now, here are the overall takeaways from those 2,000 plus pages. The government maintains a non-password protected database housing an impressive 22,000 scientific papers about COVID vaccines, much of which on adverse events. And that database is right here. Negative efficacy in the database is a 2023 study by Cleveland Clinic Researchers published in Oxford Academic Press, which proves the risk of COVID-19 also increased with the number of vaccine doses previously received. That is, more injections equals more infections. This landmark study negates any possible justification for the morbidity and mortality caused by COVID vaccines. And that report is published here, which once again, I will leave the link in the description. The FAC staff were alarmed by Florida's decision to stop recommending COVID vaccination for young males in October of 2022. One staffer's response, yikes! A PHAC myocarditis data review through June of that year showed a 24 times elevated risk among Canadian girls aged 5 to 11. No action was taken. Did they inform you of that 24 times risk for Canadian girls aged 5 to 11? The staff casually emailed each other with regular updates to the vaccine death tally. No action taken to date. Dennis Rancourt et al.'s 2023 report, which attributed 17 million global excess deaths due to COVID vaccine program, caused a stir at PHAC. The report was shared with all provincial, territorial, and health authorities, as well with the military RCMP. Health Chief Theresa Tam asked for an analysis of the report, deemed not credible. Yet, here it is, peer-reviewed and published. Unfortunately, it did not suit the agenda of the Public Health Agency of Canada and Theresa Tam. By mid-2022, of the 2,000 death reports accumulated by PHAC, 163, or 79%, had occurred within 30 days of injection. No action taken. As early as October 2021, PHAC determined that among 190 fatal reports, the median time to death following injection was just 7 days. No action taken. PHAC filters out death reports before proper assessment. In January 2023, it stated 300 is too many deaths to investigate. Need criteria to determine what should be looked at. Example, sudden expected death. ACCA Advisory Committee on Causality Assessment would be looking at deaths that can't otherwise be explained. Example, heart attack, stroke, etc. Almost a definition of exclusion. Example, someone found dead with no apparent underlying condition. The Brighton collaboration, WHO guidelines, and causality algorithms are used to ignore hundreds of Canadian deaths, which have already been aggressively whittled down by provincial and territorial authorities, despite the fact that most COVID vaccine deaths in the federal database occur within a week of injection. Again, I'll leave a link to all of this Freedom of Information documentation that the PHAC was forced to provide. Excuse me. But there are some excerpts provided in this publication. Conclusion, the incident rates of local systemic and immediate hypersensitivity AEFIs for COVID-19 vaccines occur frequently. High incident rates of rare and serious AEFIs were reported in this study. Younger participants, females who had previously had COVID-19, and smokers were more likely to encounter adverse side effects. The reported evidence of solid organ rejections post-SARS-CoV vaccination or COVID-19 infection should not discourage vaccination against worldwide pandemic. The number of reported cases is relatively small in relation to the hundreds of millions of vaccinations that have occurred, and the protective benefits offered by SARS-CoV-2 vaccinations far outweigh the risks. Now, we all know now that this is not true. They didn't test for prevention, and they ignored proven drugs that were effective in treating in lieu of vaccinations. As a matter of fact, all over the world, ivermectin and hydrochloroquine were banned. Conclusions. Immunization stress-related responses presenting as stroke-like symptoms can develop after COVID-19 vaccinations. Symptoms more likely to occur on the injection side are transient, without permanent pathological difficulties. Public education and preparedness are important for administering successful COVID-19 vaccination programs. As you can see, this is not looking good, but I'm going to jump down to some specific information. Way down in the list, we're going to go to page 1482. There is information in here that was deemed to be not uh, suitable for the public, and also confidential information that's shared only within the PHAC group, which is absolutely horrific. All the while they're telling us safe and effective, safe and effective. Save grandma, go get your shot. It prevents transmission. It prevents death. When in fact it has been deemed toxic and to cause death. Absolutely disgusting. Sorry about the wait here. Reporting on deaths occurring after immunization. What are we doing currently and where should we go? We are not doing causality, but we should align ourselves to this framework and algorithm. Paradigms for assessing a VAC death, Qatari framework, domain questions, other published questions, and MAE protocols. Unexplained versus unexpected deaths. All of this stuff is just terrible. Here we go. The development of these mRNA vaccines was built on decades of science and research. COVID-19 mRNA vaccines are held to the same high standards for safety, effectiveness, and quality as all medicines and vaccine products authorized for use in Canada, all which are subject to strict quality control standards. Canada approved COVID-19 mRNA vaccines contain instructions on how to make a small harmless piece of the COVID-19 virus, the spike protein, using ingredients already contained in our bodies. After the protein piece is made, the cell breaks down the mRNA instructions and gets rid of them. mRNA does not remain in the body or interact with, or alter DNA in any way. And this also seems to have been proven wrong. We're going to jump down to 1525 here. Here we go. A lot of misinformation is coming out now that things have calmed down. More talk around deaths. ACCA is struggling with finding an internationally accepted definition of sudden, unexpected death. 300 is too many deaths to investigate. Need criteria to determine what should be looked at. Crazy, right? And main questions. When there is a sudden unexpected death, do coroners investigate for vaccination history as part of the death review? If a person had received a vaccine in X number of days, do the coroners report to these public health units as potential adverse event? Could we use this group to get expertise for a CCA if needed? Just crazy. What does the investigation look like for coroners who are looking at these deaths? How much underreporting is there? To what extent do they even look into if a person's vaccinated, had COVID? Do the coroners themselves report to the database? They should, but do they? We need another study, another $80 million. It's just terrible. Hi everyone, Valerie Gaston confirmed that there are not any record linkage activities at StatsCan to combine mortality data with vaccination status. If PHAC was able to provide that data, their record linkage team is booked solid until January 2024, so we should explore other options. This topic is like of interest to PTs, so we may be able to negotiate access to the necessary data. And down here, they talk about a hot potato. Here's some of the data that they've hidden from the people of Canada. And here we go. Heads up! Another hot potato inbound. I'll let you know when the official tasking arrives with the deadline. Thanks. Question 2669 is the hot potato. And that hot potato comes from the House of Commons questions. And if we jump down, there it is. And there's some very difficult questions for these people to answer, hence naming it a hot potato. As for the actual freedom of information documentation provided, as you can see, it's 2,059 pages. And document released under the Access to Information Act by the Public Health Agency of Canada. And once again, they were stalling and they were ordered to release it within 60 days. How long do you suppose they would keep this information from us, the people of Canada? Probably forever. That would be my assumption. And this referenced in the first publication. Background. The purpose of this study was to evaluate whether bivalent coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 vaccine protects against COVID-19, and we know that it's not as effective as they told us. The method. The study included employees of Cleveland Clinic in employment when the COVID-19 vaccine first became available. Cumulative incidence of COVID-19 over the following 26 weeks was examined. Protection provided by the vaccination, analyzed as a time-dependent covariate, was evaluated using Cox proportional hazards regression with change in dominant circulating lineages over time accounted for by the time-dependent coefficients. The analysis was adjusted for the pandemic phase when the last prior COVID-19 episode occurred and the number of prior vaccine doses. Among the 51,017 employees, COVID-19 occurred in 4,424, or 8.7% during the study. In multivariable analysis, the vaccinated state was associated with lower risk of COVID-19 during the BA.4/5 dominant, hazard ratio 0.71, 95% confidence interval 63 to 79, and the BQ dominant at 0.8 or 0.69 to 0.94 phases, but decreased risk was not found during the XBB dominant phase, 0.96, 0.82 to 1.12. The estimated vaccine effectiveness was 29%. 95 confidence interval 21 to 37%, 20% 6 to 31, and 4% or 12 to 18% during the BA, BQ, and XBB dominant phases, respectively. The risk of COVID-19 also increased with time since the most recent prior COVID-19 episode and with the number of vaccine doses previously received. A conclusion. The bivalent COVID-19 vaccine given to working age adults afforded modest protection overall against COVID-19, while the BA.4/5 lineages were the dominant circulating strains, afforded less protection when the BQ lineages were dominant, and effectiveness was not demonstrated when the XBB lineages were dominant. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And this was published in Open Forum Infectious Diseases, Volume 10, Issue 6, June of 2023. And the entire study is listed here. And again, you can see the stats. Yes, it may have been moderately effective in the first strain of COVID, but as these strains mutated, it became less and less effective until it was proven that it wasn't effective at all. And yet, approved COVID vaccines, and boy, the information they're providing is less than ideal. Safety. COVID-19 mRNA vaccines are held to the same high standards for safety, effectiveness, and quality as all vaccines authorized for use in Canada. Only vaccines that meet those standards can be approved, which I don't know what to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. They're still promoting effectiveness. Clinical trials showed that beginning 1 week after the second dose, the Pfizer COVID vaccine was about 95% effective, 100% effective for 12 to 15-year-olds, 97% effective for those 5 to 11. Effectiveness data supporting the authorization in children ages 6 months to under 5 years are based on a comparison of immune responses in this age group to individuals aged 16 to 25 years. I'm not even going to go through any more of this because it's garbage and it has been disproven. Yet it's still up here, and the Canadian government and the media are still pushing for vaccines. Absolutely diabolical. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have to ask ourselves, given this information, which they had a long time ago, and Theresa Tam chose to disregard this entire study, peer-reviewed study, tells you all you need to know. And Theresa Tam just walked away scot-free, along with all of the other health authorities from the provinces which were punishing us with mandates and lockdowns and forced vaccinations, which they say, yes, they were completely voluntary vaccinations. However, they made it very difficult for the people that did not choose to get vaccinated to even conduct themselves in society. So there you have it. Please share this information. Use the links I provide and share this with everyone. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video.